Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And this week is going to be a case study in what happens when a company that spends a lot of time virtue signaling to a certain audience, to a certain side of the aisle, has this karmic boomerang kind of come back and hit them in the butt. Disney is dealing with a lot of backlash right now. They're getting it from, I'd say they're getting it from all sides, but they're mostly getting it from the left side of the aisle because of certain stances and certain donations that they have given to certain politicians, and it's getting worse. It's going from bad to worse. Not only is Disney getting backlash from the LGBTQIA plus community, but also women's rights groups now
are coming out now. This is why we keep saying that Disney should just be apolitical, which CNN has a problem with too.
Yeah, this is interesting. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about Bob Chapek's statement coming out in support of the LGBTQ community after the bill's already gone through.
Yeah. I just want to say for 1 second, I don't understand why people think that if Chapek had said anything before the bill, it was going to change anything. I mean, other than making a big statement for, backpats and oh, thank God Disney's on our side, it wasn't going to actually impact it in any way, shape, or form. Contrary to the arguments being made, I don't think it would have done anything because both sides were already given money by Disney. It's not actually a whole lot of money, I don't think, from the company directly. And I don't think that Disney is going to have that much sway in Florida politics.
No, I mean, Disney is the largest employer in Florida, as far as I know, but
they can't move the park.
No, there were people on Twitter, I swear to God, they said Disney should shut down Walt Disney World right now and relocate it.
Right, yeah, because it's that easy.
It's that easy. Disney magic.
The money they'd lose for people being pissed off is a drop in the bucket compared to how much it would cost them to relocate a park, which they're not going to do. So they're not going to up and move Walt Disney World. In fact, they're actually bringing some of their other divisions from California to Florida because Florida wasn't shutting them down where California was. They're not going to get that involved. They'll say what they have to say to save face with everybody. But at the end of the day, being the biggest employer in Florida isn't going to get policies changed because they said so.
So we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about virtue signaling gone awry. And this is exactly what happens when companies play to one side of the aisle. As soon as you do something that particular political party doesn't like, they eat you alive. So we're going to talk about, before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rantscasts. Over 260,000 subs. Yay! Thank you so much for the support. We talk an awful lot about Disney, and weirdly enough, we had spent years fighting off pixie dusters, fighting off Disney defenders, calling us negative and awful, and how dare you diss Disney? What's wrong with you? Disney is a great company. Clownfish TV, you're just really, really bitter, awful people.
Right, until it was trendy to piss on them.
And we haven't gotten an apology yet from a lot of the people who
You're not going
who have been attacking us, who I'm believing probably are in support of canceling Disney right now.
Also, contrary to popular opinion about us, we are not Republicans.
No, we're not.
And everybody's like, well, you must be Republicans or outright Yahtzees. It's like, we're not. We're just reasonable people that are like, what the hell?
We are normies caught in the middle of a culture war that nobody wants. Well, some people want it, but it's
mostly Twitter.
Most of us don't want it. So before we get into Chapek statements or whatever, this article was on CNN a couple of days ago, and I think it's very interesting because we said before that Disney, the only way they can win anymore is to come out and say, hey, we're going to be apolitical. We're not going to give to either side.
Which is kind of what Chapek was leading into. He was saying that they were going to try to stay more apolitical. But you're not allowed to do that because Twitter and social media and these pop culture blogs get really, really salty when you do that.
You can't walk it back. And we've seen companies try to do this. Like I know Shopify and what was the other one?
But you know what? Those companies are still in business and no one cares about it now. It lasted for like a couple of days. People were pissed. And then that just like went back to business as usual.
Yeah, I think it was Coinbase. I think they actually offered to buy people out and be like, hey, we'll give you a severance package if you don't want to work for our company because we're not going to be overly political. I'm sorry. We're going to just do business. Here's some money and good luck to you. And I think that was a very generous offer, but people still complain.
Well, here's the thing with Disney too, before you say about this, how much, when is it enough? Because Disney has spent the last few years originally because of Iger, pandering. They've been doing all kinds of things like for the diversity and inclusion, that some of it is legitimately good things. Some of it, is questionable. But, they've been doing all kinds of things internally to try to be more inclusive, to try to make sure they take into consideration people's identities and things like that. And they're like, even changed the rules about what you can wear. And they made that whole Reimagine Tomorrow thing. And they have this whole website dedicated to that. They're doing all kinds of programs. And it doesn't matter that they're doing all this stuff. And they're doing everything they can to make sure that they're a better company for everybody included. Well, mostly unless you're like white and male. But they're doing all this stuff and it's still not enough.
Well, that's it. When you virtue signal to a particular audience, in this case, it's Twitter. Disney's been looking for fist bumps from social media and chasing social media clout for the last 5 or 6 years. And CNN actually called it out and they said this is basically because of Bob Iger wanting to run for office.
That's exactly what it was about.
So Bob Iger took the company down a very political path, which I thought was really weird. Now, I understood Disney in California, leaning left definitely. But, we've said time and time again that in Florida is a completely different situation, that a lot of the people who work at Disney in Florida are outspoken conservatives.
Do you remember, not that long ago, actually, when a lot of companies, you didn't know which way people lean politically because it didn't fucking matter?
Yeah, well, that was so 2012.
I mean, now it's all about companies. It's like you need like a social credit score for companies before you're allowed to buy anything or go there anything anymore because it's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, that's kind of where they're going, and they're going with venture capital and stuff like that. But this was about, and we said before in a previous video, this is all about Bob Iger wanting to run for office,
using Disney to do it.
Using Disney to position himself as a very progressive potential political candidate, and CNN is actually calling it out. We'll talk about
it out first.
We did. But Disney shows off its post-Iger politics. Coming from CNN, Disney's CEO transition from Bob Iger to Bob Chapek marked a shift from an outspoken, famous CEO with political ambitions.
That's exactly what it was about.
To a largely unfamiliar name whose politics remain a mystery.
Well, if you were a Disney Parks person, you knew who Bob Chapek was. I mean, he was called Bob Chapek, Bob Cheapskate. But people that were parks related didn't know who he was.
This week, we got a glimpse at how Chapek's Disney might respond to the world's tumultuous political climate.
By staying out of it.
Trying to stay out of it. Now, this is a couple days ago. He has issued a statement after the fact, and I think he only did it because he was forced to. But the reality is the only way Disney or any company at this point is going to be able to please everybody is to not play the game.
People are trying to do that now, and then they're told they can't do that because that makes them bigots.
Yeah, you're basically, unless you are in support of all left-wing causes as a company, Twitter is going to scream about it. But at some point, you have to be like, this is Twitter. This is not the real world. And look, Disney's been very biased in the last couple of years, especially. I mean, look at what happened with, Lucasfilm with Gina Carano. She got terminated from Star Wars, but then her co-stars who were espousing left-wing politics, they didn't have any repercussions.
Iger, again, what I always found very amusing to me and ironic is the fact that he was out there we have to do all this diversity and inclusion initiatives and we have to do all these things that are very, very far left because he wants these sort of politics. But the same person was the one who was pandering to China. He was the same one who was out trying to get himself a ambassadorship to China under the new political, leadership of our country. He's the one who, because when they go on about characters being cut and things being cut from the Pixar films, that was mostly under Iger because he wanted them to run in China. And he knew they wouldn't allow it to run in China. They filmed Mulan and changed all of Mulan to the story to appeal to China, which it was their story to begin with. Mm-hmm. But they filmed it near controversial concentration camps, allegedly.
Re-education.
Re-education centers,
facilities, yes.
allegedly, and all this other stuff. So for all his posturing as a progressive left to get himself power, he was also playing both sides with China. It can be argued. And then Disney has been really the last few years, and that would have been under Iger, doing the whole pride flag merch and all the rainbow stuff. I mean, they did stuff before, but they really pushed it like around 2018, 2019. That was under Iger because they wanted to cash in on it. So, to be fair to the side that's outraged, from their perspective, Disney has always been on their side and promoting what they believe in. So, if Disney steps out of line with them, then they're going to yell about it. But Disney's been out of line. If you really believe in human rights and you really believe in inclusion and diversity, Disney has been out of line for a while. You just only wanted to see when they were lining up with what you wanted to hear.
So this is interesting. This is basically CNN pointing out that Iger was the most political Disney
that's
CEO.
Why. Before Iger, they didn't really know what their politics were either.
So here, Chapek's statement marked a tonal shift for the most influential and powerful media company and could signal a change in how Disney will address political and social issues. But
they need to stay out of it.
They need to stay out of it. Going to the New York Times in 2017, they said, before the Trump presidency, who could have imagined that the Walt Disney Company would find itself at the fiery center of American political debates?
Before the Trump presidency, most of this shit didn't go on.
Yeah. I told him I'd never seen a Disney or chief executive for Disney so deep in the political mix. Iger took stances that put him and Disney in the middle of the culture wars.
You could argue that he risked the Disney company for his own aspirations.
So it's really interesting to see CNN, who has actually been told by their new boss, basically, to stick to sports, to go back to covering actual news, come out and say, yeah, Disney changed because of Bob Iger's own political aspirations. And they started pandering to one side of the aisle because Bob Iger wanted to get himself elected president.
Right. And so now that they're trying to go back to center, they're not allowed to.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's just it. Again, you set the expectation. You have been saying for the last 4 or 5 years now, Disney is an ally to left-wing causes, and we've been giving predominantly to left-wing causes. But oopsie doopsie, we've also been giving to Republicans.
But they always were going to, because that's the corporate way. The corporate way is to give to both sides so that you can have favors that whenever you need them.
Yeah.
But that's problematic for Twitter.
Well, the problem with trying to, and this is the same with Disney just as a company, people try to market Disney as your friend.
The family, the Disney difference.
It's a family, it's a friend, and people forget that Disney is a business. Now, cast members were in for a very rude awakening when they stopped being referred to as family members and referred to as employees during the pandemic, and they got their asses, kicked out of the boat. But people were in for a very rude awakening. And again, this is Bob Iger setting the tone because it was all about getting himself elected.
Right. And when they go on about Disney stood up politically before with the Georgia incident, when Biden had his confirmation. And those both cases were Iger stepping in there because politically he wants to make sure everybody knows that he's a good option for president someday. And the whole Biden confirmation thing was really stupid because he was like, well, basically came out flat out and said, hey, Republicans, we gave you money too, and we're going to cut off your money if you don't vote the way we want. And they got a lot of shit for that. But I also know they didn't give enough money to Republicans that it actually impacted the confirmation. That was more posturing. I don't think that had anything to do with it being put through. It was going to get put through anyway. Yeah. It's just him trying to get attention for himself. The Georgia thing, you notice how that went away really fast? That they made this big statement, but it just kind of, everybody just stepped over it and kept going.
They're still filming movies in Georgia, I think.
Right. So Disney didn't stop.
I see the peach at the end.
Oh, no, because they changed the policy because of Disney. But it wasn't because of Disney. And now, because of those instances, now people are yelling that Disney needs to step out and say something. Thing is, even if Disney says something in this situation with Florida, it wasn't going to change anything. If Bob Chapek had made a flowery statement, other than saving face and getting high fives on social media from the again, looking like divisive, it was not going to change DeSantis' mind. No. It was not going to change what was happening in Florida. And companies, they I mean, unless it's like impacting their, like, as far as like, them being allowed to have operations in that state, they really shouldn't be messing in the politics and stuff of the state.
No, and it's interesting because, again, back to that CNN article, they basically said historically Disney has not gotten involved in politics. Now, you can go back to Walt.
That's
Walt
a fair
himself.
argument.
That is a very fair
Yeah,
argument.
well, we would completely give you that. You're not wrong there.
Walt was ratting out his own employees
Right.
to McCarthy, so it's like,
so it's not a completely unprecedented type thing, and I will completely give you that.
But post-Walt, Disney has been pretty vanilla, and again, this is just even under Michael Eisner, Disney was, and Eisner, I know his political leanings, he's definitely on the left, but they were across the board, just we're a family-friendly company that produces vanilla entertainment for everybody.
I think families come in all shapes and sizes in all different ways and things like that. And I think Disney has done a lot of things to try to, being very inclusive of everyone, except for the people who don't have the money to go. Let's be honest.
Except for the poor people.
Except for
Disney
the poor
loves
people.
everybody except for poor people.
They don't care what color you are. They don't care who you sleep with. They don't care any of that stuff. As long as you have the money, that's all they care about.
So Chapek had to apologize.
He did. He did put an apology. Now, I thought it was weird when he put his first statement out to begin with that he started with the whole Ukraine thing.
What the fuck does that have to do with anything?
But that's what you have to do. When you're these companies anymore, you're not allowed to just put out a statement about one thing unless there's something else going on. You have to acknowledge the other thing going on first.
Yeah, like, hey, we're good people. Hey, this is the problem. You set the tone. These companies, by virtue signaling, and it could be argued that Disney is one of the worst because of Iger.
Yeah.
Now everybody expects statements to be put out from every company about every damn topic, and it better be the right statement with the right politics at the right time. If you're a day late,
politics would mean far left politics.
Yeah, if it's a day late and the dollar short, you didn't give money to this, you put too many black squares on your Instagram, you didn't pander hard enough, you've got this person working for you, and 10 years ago this person said this one thing on Twitter. Oh my God. There is no way to win this other than to say, you know what? We're fucking done with all the politics.
Well,
we're done.
Chapek said they're pausing political donations in Florida. Indefinitely, because he gave to both sides. And people keep going on about the people they gave to that are on the right. However, Disney gave to all the people on the left, too. People that voted against it were paid off by Disney as well.
Disney would have been completely screwed during the pandemic if it wasn't for Walt Disney World being able to stay open.
And that's because of DeSantis, which I'm not like saying, one way or the other, but that's just the facts of the situation. Newsom shut it down. Newsom wouldn't let it open. And if you remember, Iger was calling out Newsom and they were all screaming about Newsom and how he was keeping them, closed and it was bad. Until his, the whole thing where they had to vote to see if he was staying in office, then Newsom was in Hollywood's back pocket. He's setting up all kinds of special tax breaks and incentives for them. So, of course, Disney sided with Newsom and Hollywood to keep him there.
Yeah, after Newsom stabbed them in the back.
Right.
I mean, he did. They honestly, I remember that. I remember, when they had the meeting with the health people or whatever, and Disney was shocked because they thought that they were going to open the theme parks, and they were, putting statements out, and they're like, oh my, basically we were betrayed. We thought we had a deal. Newsom altered the deal.
And Republicans are more pro-business. So why do you think Disney is moving, like a bunch of their Imagineering, to Florida?
Yeah, well, people think they can just pack up Disney World, move out of state now because it's one thing. This is the problem, guys. This every company, not just Disney.
That's just it too. A lot of companies do the same things.
It's you have virtue signaled to Twitter for so long now that they expect unrealistic things. And I'm not talking about the quote unquote don't say gay bill. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking just in general.
That's just the latest one in a long line.
People on Twitter, I saw blue checks on Twitter talking about Disney just snapping their fingers and shutting down Walt Disney World on the principle of the thing. I'm like, are you fucking mental? Do you have any idea what that would do to the company and how many people would be out of work, including a lot of LGBTQ
they don't
people?
Care.
I mean, and this is coming from people that don't live in Florida, but they're just like, you should just move Disney World. Sure, we'll pack it up in a van and we'll move it. We'll pack it up like a modular home and we'll just move it to Portland.
Right.
Would that make you happy? I mean, what the fuck?
Oh, people are talking about moving to Texas. I'm like, yeah. You know how they most of the political leanings in Texas are, right?
You think Florida's bad?
I know. I'm like, oh my
I'm just
God.
saying. You think so? I mean, this is like blown up. We've got DeSantis flat out calling Disney woke Disney.
Right, and then because Bob Chapek backpedaled and put out a big apology after the fact, now you have a women's group that are pissed off because Disney has given donations to politicians they don't like because they're anti-abortion politicians. And how dare they? But they've also given a lot of money to politicians that are pro-abortion. So
I'm just for, well, again, Disney, you did this to yourselves. Any company that gives to any political candidate or organization, you did it to yourselves. You did.
You have gone after this audience. It is mostly Iger, and now Chapek's trying to walk it back to center again. And
it's hard. It's almost impossible.
And he's not even going back to center fully. I mean, he's even saying like, we're going to still keep pushing all these, Reimagine Tomorrow and all these internal things, but we're going to try to do better within our company where we have actual control to do so. And that's not enough for them because, Disney needs to tell everybody else every state what they should do politically because Iger made a couple statements back when he was there about things that really didn't even impact the situation at all. But they want Disney to always take their side on everything because our employees, who mostly were the ones complaining didn't live in Florida, are mad about this. This isn't even about the bill, because like we've mentioned before, the bill, there's things in it that we're like, about ourselves. But that we don't live in Florida.
Yeah, like this is neither here nor there. The point we're trying to make is that this is the tightrope that you walk when your company gets overly political. And I would say it's the same with Sony. I would say it's the same with any other major, Microsoft, any other major corporation. Like as soon as you start putting out corporate support for a particular side of the aisle or particular political candidates or particular political causes, you've alienated any opposers. And then you also run the risk of running afoul of this audience you've courted. And that's what we're seeing.
Yeah,
now.
And they're saying here, a report revealed that 69% of political donations from Disney in Florida went to lawmakers who are anti-abortion. Okay, let's take that and compare it statistically across what was given to California and the lawmakers there too. Let's just, apples to apples here, people. Of course they give to both sides of the aisle. Florida leans more Republican. Florida, they're trying to keep their shit open in Florida because, people that are pro-business and pro-opening in Florida were the ones, of course, they gave more money to because they wanted to keep their damn parks open to keep the company from going under.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is corporate America. You give to both sides, and whatever side you think you're going to have the most favors with is the side you give more to, and it's in different areas. I'm sure if you look completely across the board, you'd find it's a lot more leaning towards the opposite way.
Yeah,
yes,
for sure. So here's the thing. I'm thinking of Ursula. Life's full of tough choices, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Do you want the company to stay open? You want the company to make money? I mean, it's the same with during the pandemic. People were, angry about theme parks being open, but they're also angry that Disney laid their employees off. So I'm like, what are they supposed to do? Just keep paying everybody indefinitely until the company runs out of money and everybody loses their jobs?
Right, because, socialism.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's a really, and Iger put the company in a really, really rough place here. And I don't know. Chapek makes all kinds of mistakes on his own. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Dude does some really dumb shit. I'm not going to say he doesn't. But I don't think trying to be apolitical and going back to center is a bad idea. I think the company needs to do this because, more companies need to do this because it's actually going to hurt them in the long run. Contrary to what Twitter and social media thinks, whether you like it or not, half the country votes opposite what you vote.
Yeah, it used to be, again, that, Disney entertainment was for everybody. It was escapism. And
it needs to be for everybody.
And we've seen, again, when you pander to a certain audience, it's creeping into the movies, for sure. But then the thing is it's not far enough, according to some people. Like, it's like you can completely destroy Star Wars, but, Pixar is not gay enough.
Right, because, and I'm 100% sure that they did pull back,
I'm sure they did.
Cut it out because they wanted to go to Russia and China and places like that.
Well, Russia's bad now, so we don't have to worry about that.
I don't doubt that for a moment. Yeah. I'm sure they're completely right. And in some cases, it might have made the story better. I don't disagree with that. But I'm sure that's why they did it.
Well, it's interesting, though. Again, you can't walk this back. The damage is done. You're going to have to stand your ground.
Well, now that he's given an apology, they're all coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, exactly. So this is coming from the people who are angry about the anti-abortion bill, Director of Reproductive Rights. Simply pausing donations to all politicians instead of the ones pushing this radical agenda embodied by the Florida's Don't Say Gay bill and 15-week abortion ban misses the point.
No, I think they're missing the point. That means you can't pause donations to people we support.
Yep. Company leadership is well aware of what Disney's political contributions support, but did nothing. Disney is funding legislation that will actively harm their own employees and consumers. They must do more than just pause donations. They should demand money that they gave to these radical politicians be returned and subsequently donated to people supporting women in the LGBTQ plus community. Or we just stop donating to any political organization.
It's okay that you give donations as long as it's to the side we support. I'm saying you need to stop it across the board.
Yeah, if Disney paid attention to the political stances of who it gave to, it would have seen this coming.
They know the political stances because they're trying to earn favors on both sides.
They're going to have to stop. And companies are going to have to stop. You know what's going to happen? Because of this backlash against Disney, I really have to wonder if other corporations are going to look at this and be like, yeah, this is the moment when we stop pandering to Twitter, because they will freaking turn on us. It doesn't matter what we do. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter if we upend the entire effing company. It doesn't matter if we go through and audit all of the attractions in the theme park to make changes that nobody asked for. It doesn't matter if we, fire people, whatever, hire people, whatever. None of this matters, because as soon as we do something they don't like, they're going to eat us.
Right.
So stop trying.
Well, basically, when Disney stepped in with like Georgia and stuff, it comes across like, well, anytime any state pushes any policy, people that I was originally from that state, so you need to go to that state and tell them you have to vote the way I want you to. And I'm like, this is stupid. Like saying, well, that's not fair because it hurts my cause. There you go. That's what your problem, because you keep looking at it from just your own stance. What we're saying is they have customers and cast members and executives that come from all different walks of life, and they're from all different political, places. And it used to be you didn't have to know what your friends were voting for to be friends with somebody. And the fact that it's been so, everything's become so partisan that, if you vote one way that we don't like, that everybody that has anything to do with that side should be canceled and should fall face to the earth and die so we can have our ways. And I'm tired of it. I would say the same if they were trying to argue the extreme on the other side. They needed to stay the fuck out of politics. And this is Iger's fault.
Yeah, and it was selfish. This isn't, look, Bob Iger didn't do what he did for you. I mean, look at what he did with China.
Yeah, he didn't do what he did for you.
He didn't do what he did for you. He did what he did because he was hoping after he was the CEO of Disney that he was going to hop into the White House, and he wants you people to vote for him. That's basically it. He wants the votes.
While he was telling you that he was doing these things for the good of the heart because he supports you, he was also pandering to China and filming near re-education centers. While he was doing what he was doing for you, he was also, out there telling Pixar to cut, working behind with people, telling Pixar to cut the gay scenes. That he's acting outraged now about Florida, but he's one of the reasons that Disney was doing what they were doing.
The sponsor of the bill, Disney's been giving money to that guy since 2015. That was on Bob Iger's watch.
Right.
So I'm just saying, like, you're all being played. Everybody's being played. Like, you think Disney actually cared about your politics. You think Disney actually cared about these causes. They care about your money. They want your money. This is all about them making money. At least Chapek's pretty upfront about that. I mean, I do not agree with all the decisions he's made, but he's been very blunt that, like, we want Disney to turn a profit. Bob Iger was telling people what they wanted to hear because he's hoping he's going to get voted in as the president.
And a lot of things that Chapek has gotten shit for were things that Iger did.
Yes.
And again, I'm not defending Chapek. No. I think Chapek's a train wreck on his own right. I'm just saying a lot of things he gets blamed for now were put into play by Iger, and he just it was already there, and it had to follow through.
Yeah, so I would actually go on record as saying I think Bob Iger long term is going to wind up going down as one of the worst CEOs in Disney history for a number of reasons. One, he put the company massively in debt.
Yeah, he overspent so bad.
And two, I think he put the company in the middle of a culture war that it had no place being in, and he's basically which could have some long term ramifications.
Right, and this culture war, and only in part, because it was only the culture war parts that got him attention. Yeah. Meanwhile, he had no problem doing things that were underhanded or like cutting scenes or doing different things like that people are arguing about now. That same guy.
Yeah. So I don't know, guys. It's going to be really interesting going forward because a lot of the support Disney's had, the audience that they've been pandering to, they've literally been tanking franchises to chase after a certain demographic that now hates them. You know?
It was going to hate them no matter what, because these people, what I've learned, extremism in general on either side.
Yeah.
They love you until you don't do what they want, and then you just need to fall face the earth and be dead.
Yep. So good luck with that. Disney, again, this is a problem I believe they created themselves. They should have stayed out of politics, and I do blame Bob Iger.
Right, and they need to be
that,
apolitical moving forward, contrary to what Ultraviolet says.
Like, fine, we're just not gonna give any money to anybody anymore. You figure it out. We're just gonna make cartoons, and we're gonna try to fix Star Wars, and we're gonna try to
get people to spend a lot of money at the theme park.
Get people to spend a ridiculous amount of money at the theme park. I mean, they're getting it from all sides, and just in the last 2 months, it's ridiculous. Good luck with that. We're gonna wrap it up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.